because I was like, okay, well, this is not going to get out, but I really wanted to do this, and I just wouldn't bring it up.
And then he would get really upset and sad and feel like his needs weren't even a matter of concern.
Right.
But it was.
But the more I pushed for it, and the more it's like, you know what? I really enjoy doing this, especially when I go back to my hometown area and like I get to show people that have not been there, things that I did growing up or things that I enjoyed doing there. And it's like, hey, look at this. It's one of those things where they ended up enjoying things too. Mm-hmm. For example, there was this the sculpture garden that Jay kept wanting to go to, and she's like, well, we don't know if I had time. And it's like, you know what, let's make time for it. Let's do this. Yeah. I had never been there. It was like literally across the bayou from my house. I had never been there. It was just one of those things. It was kind of just something that had always been there. Well, not always, but there's a whole story behind it. But I had never been there, even though it was like literally across the bayou from my house. And Jay's like, I kind of blah, blah, blah. It's like, you know what? We're down here. Let's just go.
I really wanted everyone to experience that. I knew everyone would love it.
Right. And we ended up running into a friend.
She was our tour guide.
Yeah. She was awesome with it. Everybody enjoyed their time. We got to hear the history of the garden. And I had never realized, like, the story behind everything. I mean, I'd heard about it, but it's one of those things where you're experiencing it, seeing all the details. But if Jay wouldn't have pushed for it, then none of us would have had such a good time that we did. But I'm the same way. I was really, really bad about that. Really bad about it. And so once I started pushing, like, hey, look, I really want to do this. I really think everybody will have a good time doing it. Mm-hmm. This is really important to me.
Yeah.
It helped me, and it helped everybody else understand, like, okay, this is kind of, let's see if we can squeeze this in. And if we can't, you know what? We tried. Mm-hmm. At least it was out there for us to try. We couldn't fit it in. Something happened. Yeah. Or your kid passes out.
Yeah. Well, we made a checklist, right. And we had everybody list off the things that were important to them.
Yeah.
And we discussed days that we thought we would be able to do them.
Right.
But we also discussed the possibility of maybe not being able to fit everything in.
Right.
And sometimes somebody is going to have to give on something that, what they were really looking forward to. But then, it becomes everybody's job to kind of look after each other and amp each other up for the things that you are experiencing and doing, and reminding each other of what's important, like connection and seeing family, or we're experiencing this thing instead. Oh, we all got to stay in the emergency room with our daughter instead of going out on the street of New Orleans, but it was an experience that we'll never forget now, and that's something that we can carry forward with us.
And we spent that whole time talking and cutting up with each other, and
of course, it being New Orleans, there was Darth Vader on the street corner
in Saints colors,
and
he was dancing to
and
music,
dancing, I think,
and dancing to music.
What he was raising money for veterans.
Yeah.
It was just so cool.
And I mean, this is, we got to experience it from the emergency room because it was like literally across the street from it.
So you have to, remember that there's still, even in the times where you don't get to do everything that's on your list, but make it a loose list, like I said. The next point that I kind of really wanted to talk about, when you're going, especially if you're going to visit family, and I know this is going to be important coming up for the holidays and things like that. Meetings, we keep saying meetings. Have meetings. Like, seriously, get together and communicate. Even if you have to do it via Skype, if you have to do it via Facebook video chat, if you have to do it however you do it, in person is always best. However,
works for you.
Whatever works for you, but do them because it's important. So if you're going to visit family, make sure so the next point is to make sure that if you are not out, that everyone knows what's to be expected and acceptable, and then plan for double up time to make up for the time that was even more prevalent because you couldn't. What I mean by double up time is when you're in those intense situations where you're used to being affectionate with your partners,
and then you have to be completely sterile.
You have to be sterile, or maybe you have to do that cringy thing where you introduce them as your friend or something like that. And then maybe the kids are used to calling them, Dad Crow and Dad Zan and, Mom Jay. Then you have to have those uncomfortable discussions with each other where you're like, hey guys, we're not out to grandma. We're out where we have to really kind of watch it. I would recommend limiting as much as possible those types of exposure to just a short time frame. That way it's easier and there's less room, and you know that there's like a start time that you're going to be there and then an end time. And then what I mean by double up time after is to show the affection that you couldn't, but do it extra.
That can also lead into something. Now you have to be really careful with this, is the subtle passes of affection. You know, when we go to my grandmother's house, we'll all drink coffee, and so like I'll go and fix, you know, either X coffee or J coffee or something like that. And as I'm passing them in the kitchen area, I would just, you know, slide my hand across their back, like as a, you know, excuse me type of thing, but it'd be more affectionate than just a slight pass, like, hey, you're just trying to get by somebody. So it's little things like that that can help calm somebody. I know with Jay, for me, anytime she puts her hands on me, like she touched me, and I instantly just relax. If she sees I'm stressed out and she'll just push her hand on my back, you know, it helps me, just like the stress just kind of just washes away. So things like that is, again, you have to be careful if you're not out. Yeah, you have to make sure you're not going to get caught, but little things like that can help. Like we would go walk in the woods, and we, you know, have a little makeout section. No.
Section.
Did you have your makeout section at the intersexual?
No. No. But we would go out and, you know, took her to the woods. We took her on a 4-wheeler, and we'd make out in the back, you know, by the levees and stuff like that. So it was little things like that.
Steal your moments when you can.
Exactly. Steal your moments when you can. That's a perfect way to say it.
There is. So prepare your family for those they're about to encounter on both ends of that. So your family that you're going to go meet, tell them about the people they're going to be meeting. Even if you're not out to them and you're introducing them as the cringy friends thing, prepare them. Like, oh, this is so-and-so, they're going to be here. That way they're not just descended upon by a whole troop of people.
You're about to meet, racist Uncle Frank, you're about to meet my dear friend Crow, who's liberal as fuck.
Yes. Yes.
And you also need to prepare your family. Crow, my uncle is racist as fuck and not quite as liberal as you. So, but you also need to allow everybody the space to be themselves.
Right.
You know, so that they actually feel comfortable and want to open up and be around your family. Don't scare them to death and make them clam up and just feel like they can't even be who they are.
So, I mean, yeah, there's things, you know, but just like a fair warning. It's like, hey, I have this friend. They're really crass to begin with, but once you get to know them, they're pretty hilarious. But just, you know, letting you know ahead of time that, you know, whoever you're meeting is who they are.
All right.
On both ends is very important.
Yeah. Something else that wasn't on the list that I think is important.
Whoa, we're going off the list?
We are, because I just thought about something.
I'm scared.
I don't know. Where is this going to lead to?
Down the rabbit hole. When you are traveling, if you're not going to stay with family, as we've been discussing, and you are going to a location, a hotel, an Airbnb, whatever it is, some camping site, whatever, wherever you're going, you really need to make sure that you're checking into the rules about occupancy.
Yes. Because
we tried to plan a romantic thing when it was the 4 of us. The max occupancy is so monoga-goggled. Like, you know, they only expect there to be 2 people
per room. And
so it was like a glamping kind of thing. That's like glamorous camping, but it really wasn't. It was kind of like these A-frame cabins that were open to the creek or whatever.
Right.
But anyway, I had to email ahead and ask them if this was something that could be altered because it was 4 of us and we all 4 wanted to share the same bed, and we all wanted to, even if it were the 3 of us. And they said that, and I just came right out and explained it. They are a business, and if they were not going to be accepting, I can take my business elsewhere. Which we ended up doing, but it wasn't because they weren't
accepting,
but they had occupancy rules due to the fire marshal that there was only a max number of people allowed, or that the actual space would accommodate.
Right.
So
it wasn't anything to do with them. It was just the fact that they had to follow their rules.
There are camping sites that say a max of 4. You could totally fit 8 people in there. So make sure you call ahead if there's more than rooms will allow.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get multiple rooms, or you have to plan for people to sleep on the floor. Maybe you need to grab some air mattresses, or plan to have cots in the room, or maybe you need to get a big humongous flat. We went on a vacation with our friend, and she was nice enough to have gotten this big humongous suite, and we all fit in there just fine.
Mm-hmm.
It was all of our kids,
all
the 3 of us,
kids.
all of their kids, and another family's kids, and everybody fit perfect.
Yeah,
it was enough, and it had a kitchen so everybody could cook, and it had several bathrooms, and it was really nice. And you can get things like that off season sometimes for cheaper.
Fairly inexpensive.
So that was like 9 kids and 7 adults?
Yes.
Yeah. It was a huge suite. And, you think about your traveling expenses. If you're looking into multiple rooms, you may just want to explore some options like that.
Mm-hmm.
Getting a big, humongous flat. And everybody had room. And the place had a pool, and it was right on the beach. And so there was plenty enough to do where everybody wasn't like all in each other's space all the time. And anyway, that's
there was
something.
Balconies when people needed a break.
Yeah. So, and it may not be the same. This was 3 different families coming together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a different kind of situation, but not really. There were room if it would have been the 4 of us, or even if it was the 3 of us, and we had room to each have our own time, and then time with our friends, and then time with the kids. And so it was a really nice setup, and that would be a good way to poly travel.
Yeah, and even that was a good example, because there was a few times I opted out. I've been going through a lot of stuff and was overly stressed, and there were certain things I needed a break.
Yeah.
At the time, I was having a rough time at work, and so everybody would go down to the beach, and I was just like, I'm opting out. I need to sit here and just watch the water from the balcony, and that's what I did.
Well, I know that one night I just stayed in and was just held on the bed because it was a rough time.
Yeah, it was.
But we wanted to go because the kids, friends, connections, and everybody was understanding, and everybody was compassionate and patient, and just allowed each other to do the things that they needed to do to have the best time that they could have.
Mm-hmm.
Even if that meant staying in while everybody else went out.
It reminds me of the time that we went camping for my birthday one time. We had 2 cabins and roughly 14 people between the 2 cabins.
Yeah.
And it was just a birthday party for me. Everybody was there to relax, have a good weekend. And one of our friends, we were all heading down somewhere to go do something. And he's just sitting on the porch in the swing, and I'm like, "You're not coming?" He's like, "No." I was like, "You sure, man? We're gonna have a really good time." And he's like, "No." I was like, "You're kind of not doing much. Is everything okay? You haven't really done anything." He's like, "Honestly," he's like, "I came on this vacation. I needed some time to relax, and that's what I'm doing." He's like, "I am having a great time doing nothing."
Yeah.
And that's what he did.
And sometimes that's what people need.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the point of going on and doing these things is not just the togetherness, but what each individual can gain from this trip. So keep everybody's individual needs in mind as well, but they also have to be able to communicate that to you, and to be able to, let you know, no, there's nothing wrong. I am fan-freaking-tastic, and I am just super content to just sit here.
And do nothing.
And as long as they can communicate that, and you're not feeling like If you're like me, I feel responsible. Like, I want to make sure everybody's having their best time. So if they couldn't have communicated that to me, I would have felt like, okay, I need to do something to help this person have a better time. That's another thing that is my issue that I have been working on. I've learned if people just don't want to do things and they want to be surly about it, then that's their right and prerogative, and I don't need to let